Hey there, Blazer fans. Welcome to the third episode of The Dragon's Den, a podcast for those that bleed green and gold. Today, my guest is a very familiar face to Blazer fans. He was the center for the football team for the Blazers in 2014, came back and played for the Blazers in the return season in 2017, and just finished up his time at UAB last year. That man is Lee Dufour. I really hope you all enjoyed this episode. Lee is a great guy and told me some great stories. So be sure to stick around to the end to hear about my Friday giveaway on social media this Friday, September 4th. And I won't keep you waiting any longer. So let's head into the episode. Thank you very much. All right, Blazer fans, I'm here with my third guest for the third episode of The Dragon's Den, a 6'4" red shirt senior, a very much a red shirt senior from Satsuma, Alabama, former UAB center Lee Dufour. Lee, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing? I'm glad to be on the show.
Thank you very much. I'm doing great, man. It's a pleasure having you on the show. I loved having you on the team for all these years. You're a great leader for the guys, and it's hard to see you go, but I know you're on to bigger and better things. So, but I know from all the Blazer fans listening that we very much appreciated your time as a Blazer. So
I appreciate it, and I think just having the exciting and sometimes the outlook sometimes didn't look that great with my career, and there's definitely ups and downs, but I definitely had a great time. So I'm glad to be able to be joining you on your podcast and being one of the has-beens now.
So I'll go ahead and get into the thick of it here. So you were on the Remington Trophy watch list in 2018 and 2019. You played at Saraland High School, helped lead Saraland to an appearance in the Alabama Class 5A state semifinals in 2013, your senior year. Started in 44 straight games to end your career at Saraland. Played center your freshman and senior year and tackle during your sophomore and junior year at Saraland. Helped guide Saraland to a 12-2 record your senior year. And you were a two-sport athlete at Saraland, not only playing football, but you also did track and field. Placed second in the discus throw and third in the shot put in the Alabama State track meet. And that was your senior year, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you received offers out of high school from Southern Miss, Georgia Southern, South Florida, and Utah State. So what made you choose UAB?
I think the biggest thing that drew me to UAB was the opportunity to build a program really from making it better than what it had been. I think in high school, my freshman year, we were playing varsity football and didn't have seniors. So my freshman year, we got smacked. But then through the years in high school, my senior year, 12-2. Can you guess who beat us in the fourth round of the playoffs? Drum roll, please. Thomas
Ooh.
and Tyler Johnson.
Oh my gosh.
At Spanish Fort, exactly. So, anyways, I think just seeing that Coach Clark was coming in, you can just do a quick Google search and see how successful Coach Clark's been at every single level that he's been at. So, I think coming in to UAB and knowing that Coach Clark was coming in, he had a staff with him that knew what they were doing. They had a vision for what they wanted. Being able to sit down and talk with Coach Clark, with my parents, he basically, made it clear he's coming here for a reason. He wants to win. That with Birmingham, I mean, that was the first time I've ever been to Birmingham when I came on my visit, and you know that feeling. You drive into Birmingham, you see Vulcan, you see the downtown skyline, and you can't beat it. Just that, Coach Clark, the Birmingham visit, all that kind of tied together, and it was only 3.5 hours away from home. It was nice. So
Yeah. So you got to UAB. You played 3 games as a freshman. You started in 2, and then the 2014 season ends. And I know it's a rough subject to talk about, but the news broke that the program shut down. And so, what was going through your mind when you heard the news that day in December?
well, we had, heard rumors. I think the first time I had heard about it was, I think we're on the bus actually heading to Southern Miss, and somebody had mentioned, I think ESPN or somebody had mentioned that UAB was in talks of canceling the football program along with bowling and rifle, and we're all on our way to Southern Miss. We're like, okay, we're not worried about that right now. Obviously, if we go win, we're going to become bowl eligible. That's never going to happen. So, um, beat Southern Miss on the bus ride back home. Sleeping because it's a solid 4-hour bus ride, and then you wake up. Um, I don't remember how many days it was between us beating Southern Miss and they announcing that it was even a possibility that UAB was going to shut the program down. But I remember being in, I think I was taking a calculus final, and I had coaches calling me, asking to set up visits, and I don't know. It's just a whirlwind because I came from Saraland to UAB. I really earned the second string spot at center during fall camp. They decided they wanted to redshirt me. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's a normal thing. So, I got to go to the home games, didn't really travel that much. However, Brian O'Leary gets his knee injured with 3 games left. So it went from, okay, I'm finally getting to college. I'm seeing what college football practice is like to, oh, okay, now I'm starting the last 2 seasons to now, okay, good luck finding a new team. So that was, those couple of months were all crazy for me. But whenever they officially announced, hey, we're not having football next year, the thought was, well, what now? I wanted to play football. Obviously, UAB would honor my scholarship if I stayed. However, I didn't think, hey, maybe we'll have football in 6 months. That never crossed my mind. It was, okay, where can I go now to play football where I'll fit? A team that would need me, a team that would be local, possibly. South Alabama just so happened to land, I think, 13 UAB guys, including Coach Vincent. So I thought to myself, okay, South Alabama's, 15, 20 minutes from my house. That'd be a great fit for me. But, it definitely did not feel right leaving UAB, especially on those terms. So, yeah, the biggest thing going through my head at that time was, okay, what now?
Okay. So you went to South Alabama only to return, 6 months later or not long after. Did you play the 2015 season there, or did you come back before even the season started?
No, I was there for the spring and summer semester of 2015. I think UAB announced that football was coming back at the end of July, maybe. I know it was before August of
Mm.
2015.
I want to say it was in June, but still, like, I mean, yeah. But you hear UAB's coming back, and I know it might sound like a an obvious question, but what made you come back?
So funny thing is, Nick Vogel and I, and this might be another question you ask later. Nick Vogel and I were roommates my freshman year at UAB. We became best friends. We were in the dorm together, spent all of our free time hanging out. We kind of made a deal that if UAB ever did bring their program back, that's something we wanted to do. So he ended up going to Southern Miss. I was at South Alabama. Those two campuses are about an hour and a half apart, if that. So even though we're in two different places, he would still drive to Mobile, and I would drive to Southern Miss, and we would still hang out. Um, I think the biggest thing that brought me back to UAB was just knowing that that's where I wanted to be. I think part of my decision to come to South Alabama was based solely off of being close to home, thinking, my friends are here, my family's here, I'll love it. Not necessarily the case whenever you're used to being 3.5 hours away, having a little bit of privacy, being in a completely new area, coming home and thinking, oh, my high school friends are still going to be here. Not necessarily the case. They all have lives and jobs, and they're all in college too. So I don't know. I think just the coming to South Alabama, I think and originally I thought it was a great idea, but just I don't know, it was something in my brain said, "Hey Lee, you need to be at UAB." And as soon as they announced it, I think Nick and I called each other at the exact same time. I think our calls bounced whenever we called each other. So I called Nick and I was like, "Hey man, you see what happened?" He said, "Yeah." I'm already on my way. I was like, what do you mean? You kidding, dude? He's like, no, I'm not being serious, but I'm going to go talk to the coach and tell him I want to go back. I'm thinking, okay, I've got a scholarship here at South Alabama. I don't necessarily have one guaranteed at UAB when I return. And of course, I had my parents playing devil's advocate with me. My dad's like, why would you leave something that's guaranteed? Why would you go back to UAB if, you don't know that you're going to have anything there when you get back? Um, but yeah, the decision I had to make. I just knew in my heart I wanted to be at UAB. I knew if Coach Clark was going to be there, it would be successful no matter what happened. So I didn't necessarily need to have a scholarship guaranteed to me to return to UAB.
That's amazing. So just on another note, do you still keep up with any of the guys that did transfer to South Alabama?
Yeah, there's a couple of guys are still local. I try to keep up with as many guys as possible, whether through social media or just random texts or phone calls or anything. But a couple of guys that transferred to South Alabama were in the same boat from Mobile or Fairhope or Eastern Shore, somewhere around there in Mobile.
Okay. So on a personal note, I went to the Troy and South Alabama game in 2015, and that was Troy's blackout game that they were playing against South Alabama, and the stadium was semi-packed for that game. It was a big game, in-state game, and all these Troy fans wearing black, all these South Alabama fans are wearing their red and white, and my family, it was me and uh, me and my dad and my stepmom and my little brother, and I believe one of my sisters went to the game too, and we were in UAB green, and
That's awesome.
we we got ridiculed heavily by a bunch of Troy fans, and
Oh, yeah.
South Alabama fans weren't exactly thrilled to see us either because they knew why we were there. But we made our presence known, and I wore a shirt with all the players that transferred down to. I homemade one with all the players that transferred to South Alabama and Troy and coaches. Had them written on my back, and I plainly put it on the back of the shirt. I'm only here for, and then I had all the players listed. I wasn't there to see the Troy or South Alabama game. I was
Oh
there for
yeah,
those guys, but
that's
it was a
awesome,
great
man.
game. Yeah. So you get back to UAB. You've got to wait 2 years. So what would you say were the pros and cons of having to wait those 2 years to play?
So we'll start with cons. I would say obviously going through full padded practice and a full camp and not having a season to play was probably the worst. I mean, I don't know how Coach Clark convinced all of us to go out there and smack each other just like we had a regular season going on, but I mean that just goes to tell you what kind of guy he is. Coach Clark. You have nothing but respect for him. But I'd say the biggest cons were just not being able to play on Saturdays. If you look at that 2014 team and then fast forward to what we would have had in 2015, you see those guys that transferred out. Jake Gaines went to Georgia, led the team in tackles. Jamari transferred to Louisville. JJ Nelson goes to the freaking NFL. I mean, you just see the stacked team that we had that we're going to have going into 2015, and on one hand, it was nice to be able to watch them play and see them do great things, all in different teams across the country. But in the back of your mind, you're thinking, that could be me playing with those guys and on Legion Field every Saturday. Pros, I got a master's degree for free. I always say for free, but the amount of time and effort you put into college football season, let alone at my time 5 of them in a row. It's not free, but you're not in debt when you graduate. So yeah, I got a master's degree paid for. That's nice.
Nice.
Just the added time I had to spend with some guys that went through the same situation that I did, that were transferring, being able to build relationships with guys for what would normally have been 3 or 4 years turned into 5 or 6 years. Just being able to see people from all across the country come in, having guys that might not have been on their second or third straw, getting one final chance to come to UAB and play on a Division I football, you know, team. I think that was pretty cool as well.
Awesome. So 2017, you started all 13 games. 2018, you started the first 7 games and suffered a broken elbow in the North Texas game. You made it back in time for the conference championship game versus Middle Tennessee and the bowl game. But so after that lengthy wait and a rough season with the broken elbow, what was it like just to see that season come to a fantastic end like it did?
Right. I still remember the noise my radius made when it broke. It didn't just break; it shattered. No, that
Golly.
it was friendly fire. Malik Johnson, my right guard. We were double teaming a nose guard, and he just came in with everything he had. My arm was in the wrong spot at the wrong time, so yeah, I broke my radius, and I also tore my UCL in my right elbow at the same time,
Right.
which I didn't know that until we got an MRI afterwards. But metal plate and 9 screws later, got that all tidied up. But no, I just remember when it happened. I should have took a knee and been like, "Hey, my arm hurts," because I couldn't make a fist. I couldn't grip the football. Obviously, you got to snap it. So I just kind of jogged off to the sideline, and I remember Cam, Coach Cam Blankenship, looked at me and was like, "What are you doing? Why are you on the sideline?" And they're like, "Oh crap! If Lee's on the sideline, we don't have a center out there for the next play." And it was right after a long run. Spencer Brown, I think, ran for 20 or 30 yards. So the rest of the offense is running down the field, and I'm running to the sideline. I'm like, "What is going on?" So madness ensues, and I go to the locker room. They do an X-ray, and Tom, the trainer's on the walkie-talkie with Dan. Dan's like, "What's going on? Is he good?" And Tom's like, "No, he broke his arm."
Oh
And
my
and they didn't
gosh.
tell me that. I just heard him say that to Dan. So I was like, "Oh, I broke my arm. Really? That's awesome." So he shows me the picture of the X-ray. I was like, "Oh yeah, that thing's broke." But anyways, you go through all that, and I was in surgery within 12 hours of breaking my arm. So that just goes to tell you what kind of world class physicians and trainers. And, if I could have broken
Yeah.
an arm anywhere in the world, I'd pick UAB. So um, the doctor told me, he's like, you're probably done for the season. If you get a really late bowl game, like December 31st bowl game, you might be able to play. And that's if you're feeling, excellent. Well, fast forward, I'm doing physical therapy 2, sometimes 3 times in a day for 6 days a week, and just the training staff and the doctors and the physicians, being there next to me the entire time I'm doing this rehab and getting my elbow brace, becoming the Robo Center. I felt like the Terminator or something going out there, but just I think one of my favorite pictures of my playing career is I think after the first touchdown in that championship game, I come jogging off the sideline, and Coach Cook, one of our strength coaches, is like going to high five me, and I'm like, all right, throwing up the Terminator elbow brace, high fiving him. But just being able to go through that hardship of breaking a bone. I played football since I was 5, never had a major injury until then. But being able to see Greg Buchanan, Andrew Smith, those guys, step in and not miss a beat, seeing our offense still being able to make plays and the offensive line being able to communicate and getting us to that point. I think Greg Buchanan might be the unsung hero of the offensive line for that year because if it wasn't for him, so many things could have gone wrong. But Greg was able to step in there and make a difference, and he was definitely there when we needed him. But then being able to go to play Middle Tennessee and just seeing I sat there at Iron City and watched us lose pretty badly to Middle Tennessee the week before that,
I was
and then
there.
exactly rolled out pretty much an entire new offense the next week, and you see what
Mhm.
ended up. But that I don't know, it's just having to sit on the sideline and watch the guys, how much effort and how much work goes into it, and just to have it, kind of taken away from you that quick, I got emotional. It wasn't because my arm hurt, because I knew I might not be able to play again for the rest of the season when I did hurt my arm. But being able to come back and enjoy that championship victory with those guys, can't replace that.
Couldn't have put it better. So, fast forward to 2019. You played in 9 games, 7 starts. You missed 5 games in the middle of the season with another injury, but you return for the final 6 games of the season, and you started the last 4 games in 2019. So, and one of my Twitter questions, one of my Twitter followers, he asked a question, but I had this in my list of questions for you. What was your overall impression of your time at UAB? Because it's one of the most roller coaster stories I've ever heard of a college player.
Yeah,
So what do you think?
I think the only other person you can compare it to is Nick Vogel, and he was there right next to me the entire time. So you could ask him the same thing, and it's I think another question that that was mentioned was, if there's one thing you could have known when you got to UAB, what would have been? And I don't think I wanted to know the amount of craziness that was going to happen between 2014 and 2019. Obviously, there could have been a lot easier route from point A to point B, but that's kind of been my entire life is, adversity. Things change and you got to be able to react. And I don't know if there's more adverse situation than, hey, your football program doesn't exist anymore. Good luck. Um, so just being able to see a community in Birmingham, um, just raise an entire program from the ashes. I know that sounds corny, being the Blazers and Dragons and whatever, but I don't think you can say any other community that has basically self-funded their football program in the country. I mean, if you went to a lot of different D1 schools and, asked their communities, hey, would you spend your own personal money to bring your football program back? I think a lot of people would say, maybe not. But, Birmingham being the city that it is, being, the number one college football, or I think football in general, watching cities in the United States for multiple years in a row, you know, maybe not having the 15 or whatever national championships in your program, but knowing that guys are coming from across the country to come play and represent for the little diamond in the rough that Birmingham is in Alabama. Just having the community support every step of the way and knowing that they had our backs and we were just trying our hardest to play for them and to make Birmingham proud. That kind of sums up, my UAB experience was just knowing that people cared, knowing that my coaches cared, my teammates cared, and the city that I was playing for cared. That was probably the biggest deal for me.
I love that answer. I mean, from a diehard man, that's a great answer. I really, it's great hearing that. And it's, I am tremendously proud of our fan base and this community, for coming together like
I
it did,
agree.
because we finally, you know, we've shown our fandom for years, but we finally put our money where our mouth is, and um, and it's great to see the support that we have now, and I know it's going to be great for years to come. But so I'll transition to a couple more, some different questions now. But what was your toughest environment you ever played in while at UAB? And
um,
I'll ask the other one in a second. But go ahead. What was your toughest environment you ever played in while at UAB?
Probably Florida. Just walking into that place, I mean, it's just huge. And then it's a nighttime game. It's a home game for Florida. They hadn't won a game, I think, in like 5 weeks. So they were just packed that place out. And, for them to have some success, that their fans were just going nuts because, we obviously didn't play our best game against Florida, but man, it was so loud. I couldn't, we got towards their band or towards their end zone or their student section. And I'm trying to make calls for my offensive lineman. I can't hear what's going on. That was probably the loudest and most nuts, insane place I played.
So, what was you answered what was the toughest place, but what was the toughest team you faced while you were at UAB?
Oh man, toughest probably the as far as the toughest defense, I think as a unit might have been or okay, so the front 4 or 5 of Florida might have been the most skilled, but I think the number one toughest guy I played against was probably Nunez Roches in 2014 playing for Southern Miss. I'm pretty sure he's still in the NFL now, but that guy you would think you had him. We would double team him. I mean, he was almost like made of elastic, like rubber bands. You would pin him down, and he would just sink his feet and just shed double teams and make the play. If the play if the ball's 10 yards away from him, he's hawking it down, and that was just one of the guys that gave everything he had. And, leading up to that game, you watch him on film, you're like, okay, this guy's going to be a problem. And he was for sure. And my true freshman year going against that guy, didn't really help my cause that much. But I think he was, if you singled it down to like the best defensive lineman I played, it was probably him. And he wasn't the biggest, he didn't have the longest arms. I think he had a broken hand when we played him, which helped me out a little bit. But no, that guy was, I think, technically the most sound I played against.
I know we've had some ups and downs over the year, but over the years. But if you could go back and change the result of one game while you were at UAB, what would it be?
Probably North Texas in 2017. We lost 43-46, and we would have won, but we had a penalty right at the end of the game, and it called a game-winning touchdown back, and we were down a considerable amount, I think, at halftime, but we were able to come back in the fourth quarter and made a one heck of a drive right at the end of the game, and just exhausted, and you finally see, oh man, we got this great deep pass. I think it was to Ronnie Turner, and it just gets called back, and you're like, man, that kind of took it out of you.
Yeah, I remember that game. That was a rough one. I didn't expect that one, but
Yeah,
thanks for bringing it back up, Lee. I'm just
yeah, that's one
just
of those, if you
just
if you
joking.
just sit there and think, man, I really didn't feel good after this game. That's one of
Mhm.
those games.
Gotcha. So a better feeling here. What was it like for playing for Coach Clark? I know you've alluded to it a little bit, but overall, what was it like playing for Coach Clark?
Um, you know exactly what you're going to get with Coach Clark. He is one of those guys that is not going to lie to you. He's got your back on and off the field. You can go to him with anything that's going on with you or your family, or he's going to shoot you straight. He's not going to lie to you because he wants you to do something for him, or just you just know that he cares. And I think his track record of his success in high school and college coaching, that kind of speaks to what kind of guy he is. Obviously, he lives and breathes football, but every now and then you can see him crack a smile off the field. It's tough and it's a rare thing, but no, that was one of the main reasons why I came back to UAB, is because I knew if Coach Clark was running the show, then I knew it was going to be successful. And you obviously want to play for a guy that cares that much about the game, because he's going to do you right. And yeah, I think you just can't say enough about him. Just he demands respect, but he also gives it back. The discipline that's what you need to be successful, is how disciplined he is and what he expects and demands from his players. But you're rewarded at the end of the season. You put in all that work and you did things the right way, and that's probably number one thing on his mind, is doing things the right way. And he knows that it'll pay off, and he teaches all of his players the same thing. So you're not only getting a good football coach, you're getting a great man to lead you on and off the field.
Yeah, that's great. So, but and you mentioned him a little earlier, but you were roommates with kicker Nick Vogel. What can you say about your friendship with Nick?
That's one of the best things about college. We've been best friends since June of 2014. He was a walk on, and I was a gray shirt or whatever. I didn't get my scholarship until August that year, but just grinding, going through camp, going through summer in Birmingham, and building those relationships. Or building that relationship between us. That's a very odd combination as an offensive lineman and a specialist. Most of the time you think, okay, those are two completely different guys. But if you spend enough time with somebody, you kind of know who they are and how they function. And Nick and I just hit it off. We liked a lot of the same things, and he's goofy as ever. And, I'm super sarcastic. So if you're ever in a room with us together, it's just, we're going to be acting, like boneheads. But coming back to UAB from South Alabama, and he was coming from Southern Miss. We moved into the same house together. We lived together for 2 more years after the program came back. So I still talk to him every single day. We still text and call, and he's going through his the troubles trying to get into the NFL right now. A lot of those new guys coming in trying to make a name for themselves aren't getting an opportunity to, because of COVID-19 restrictions and just teams not being able to bring guys into the facility. So I know he's going to end up somewhere, and he's going to be an NFL legend one day, and I'll be able to watch him on Saturdays and be like, that was my roommate in college.
Yeah,
So that's even off the field, if we were hanging out somewhere, I always had his back, and if I ever needed anything, I knew he'd be there for me, and that's still the same way to this day.
awesome. So, from a player's perspective, what was your go-to? Did you have any go-to pump-up music before the game, or do you have a pregame routine? What What was it like for you as a player before a game?
I didn't really have a strict routine. There wasn't any I wasn't superstitious or anything. I didn't do a certain I didn't wear the same pair of socks or something like that, or certain undershirt. Like my pregame music was just either Five Finger Death Punch, Godsmack, Volbeat, just heavy metal, just getting me into. I'm about to have to go physically move a grown man out of somewhere that he wants to be, so I'm gonna have to get myself pumped up for that. So it's a lot of just loud music just to get me in that mood. But I know Jordan Howard used to wear that same shirt. I think his dad gave it to him, or it had something to do with his dad whenever he played. I think he still does in the NFL now. I didn't do anything like that, but I tended to stay pretty quiet in the locker room before the game. I just kind of stayed to myself. But once we got on the sideline, you just let it loose.
Yeah, awesome. So, what's one thing people may not know about you? People remember you as the center for many years for UAB, but what's one personal thing people might not know about you?
Um, I don't know. I kind of that was when I'm thinking of questions to ask myself what people didn't know about me. I tried to be as transparent as possible, and what you see is what you get with me. I don't have any super cool secret hidden talents, or I like to go. I like to fish on my off time. The little that I had in college, being from Mobile, I just love saltwater fishing. But then coming to Birmingham, obviously you don't have the beach to go catch redfish or flounder or speckled trout or anything at. So Nick and I kind of set off on our freshwater fishing adventures sometimes. But I don't know. I guess if there's one thing that people didn't know about me, it's just I'm pretty down to earth. A lot of people get caught up in the hype of college football, and people almost try to put on this persona of I want to be a superstar and blah blah blah. But I think for the most part, offensive linemen in general, just we're there to do a purpose to protect the quarterback and the running back. We're not going to be in the spotlight, but at the end of the day, we're all working for the same thing. So
Okay. So, and looking forward now, Evan Dudley, a writer for AL.com, you might know him on Twitter. He's
oh yeah.
a follower for mine and of mine on the Twitter page, and everybody seems to know him now for UAB. But he released the projected starting lineup for the Central Arkansas game. Although we did have brief stints without you on the field due to injury while you were at UAB, it's been a while since we haven't had you for a full season. What can you tell my listeners about Andrew Smith Jr. and Will Reichard? I know I know Reichard's a freshman, but what do you know about him? What can you tell my listeners about him?
Will's going to be a lot better center than I ever was. That guy, just being able to see him for one season, he came in and he's, 10 times smarter than I am. He's got a great football IQ. He's going to be an excellent center. Andrew is also going to do a great job. Those guys are probably, battling it out probably still today to figure out who's going to start at center. And at that position, it's never a given. You never know who's going to start. You get an idea just because guys have been there longer or whatever. But on any given Saturday, it's whoever had the best week of practice, whoever prepared the best. So I think Andrew, obviously, he's had great experience the last 2 seasons. If I got hurt or if he just needed to step up for any reason, he always came in and did a great job. So I got complete confidence in him. And then seeing how positive Will Reichert has been, that guy, man, he reminds me a lot of myself, but just, because how eager he is. And, it's always great seeing those new guys come in and how excited they are to get, to college and compete. And he's going to have an absolutely fantastic future. I was Remington watch list for 2 years. He'll be in the finalists, if not winning that thing eventually. So, but no, Andrew is going to do a great job. It doesn't really matter if Andrew or Will is starting at this point. They're both going to do a great job. And Coach Owens is going to make sure of that.
Well, good to know. Nice to have the vote of confidence from a seasoned veteran like
Oh yeah,
you.
absolutely. Those guys are going to do a great job, no matter who. It really, at this point, that offensive line has finally had a couple of games together, and the guys that are older have had a couple of seasons together. So, I know last year I was the only returning starter, but now they're finally having guys that have been there and been to practice together and have been able to mesh. So that offensive line group is I think, going to be one of the shining spots on that offense this year.
Great. Um, so how's life now? I see you got a new job. So what's going on in your life now?
Yeah, graduating college in the middle of a global pandemic is probably not the best time. Especially my only experience really on my resume is, yeah, I played football in college. So, that's, it helps a little bit, but, a lot of companies are looking for 2 or 3 years. And I'm like, I just graduated college. How am I supposed to have 2 or 3 years experience, But no, I finally, thankfully, and, credit to UAB, they have plenty of career fairs every semester, and football guys are always encouraged to go to that because they know that you don't have a lot of time to be doing internships and all those other things to gain experience. So I just so happened to walk into a career fair in February, and I made a connection there. And today actually was my first day working for the Department of Defense, the federal government up here at Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville. So that future's looking bright. Finally, was able to land a career instead of just a job. So that's exciting. I moved up here to Huntsville, living with my girlfriend right now. We're both got jobs up here in Huntsville, so it's exciting. I miss Birmingham. We both miss Birmingham tremendously, but it's always nice to be able to get into a new area and explore a different part of the state. So I think the biggest thing we miss in Birmingham is the wonderful food, honestly.
Hmm. Well, congrats on the new job. It's exciting. You I know it's a little bit longer drive down to Satsuma from
Yeah,
Huntsville, but it's great to see you doing well, and
I
good
appreciate
luck
it.
in your new job. And
I appreciate it. Thank
I
you.
got I got a couple more personal questions before we go, and then I'll get to my listener questions. But what's your go-to happy place? I know you're moving to Huntsville now. You might have to make a new one. But what's your go-to happy place?
Yeah, moving to a new area with the pandemic going on, we haven't had a lot of time to be able to get out and explore and find those little niche spots that we love going to. But I think my happy place right now, I think whenever we get a chance, Sydney, my girlfriend and I, we have a cat named Misha, so we enjoy really just kicking back on the couch on a Sunday, watching movies and drinking coffee and just hanging out here at the apartment. Like I said, really haven't been able to get out too terribly much to explore all the like we did in Birmingham. We spent 4 or 5 years in college in Birmingham. You get to know the city pretty well, so I'm looking forward to being able to explore Huntsville some more. And hopefully, if any listeners have any good suggestions for places to go to hang out or eat or anything, they can drop you a comment or something on Twitter whenever they hear this. So.
Yeah, definitely. Let me go to my Twitter questions now, and like I said, I've got I asked a couple of them in a different way, but let's see. So I've got a question from Mike Rowe at Blazer Rowe on Twitter. Mike is a frequent question asker on my social media pages, but he asks, who on the team had the best or most unusual non-football talent on the team, singing, dancing, etc.
Dancing, I would have to say is Hayden Pittman, and you Blazer fans have probably seen him do a little bit of dancing every now and then. But that guy, I tell you, there's no off switch for him. He's constantly in a great mood, dancing, singing. We can be in 110-degree heat in the middle of camp, and you look over at Hayden, and he's just having the time of his life. So that brings a lot of energy to the team. And I will say the only other person I've really been around that acted like that was Greg Bryant in 2016. That guy, it would be 5:30 in the morning on the bus to Legion Field in 20-degree weather, and he is just like getting us ready to go. Or we're in the old weight room before we built the new facility, and there's kind of like a hallway that goes up this little ramp that leads to the weight room, and we all just lined up outside just waiting to go work out. And he's dancing and singing, and like I said, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. And so that guy had some of the most just infectious attitude and demeanor, and you couldn't, I never saw Greg sad. Just looking back and thinking of what he could have turned into and just the great talent that he had, that if you asked me that question in 2016, that's who I would have said was the life of the party. And Hayden Pittman is always dancing and cutting up and having a great time. So that's who I would say had the best dance skills, at least.
Another question from Mike. He asks, "Who was the toughest Blazer that you had to go up against in practice?"
I don't think there's any, shock when I tell you it was Garrett Marino. You go to one-on-ones and you're like, all right, Garrett, what move are you going to pull on me today? You just butting heads with that guy since 2016, and we both got to know each other. When you're on the field, no one talks more smack than Garrett Marino. But the second you step off the field, it's, hey man, how you doing? You had a good practice today. So he was good at turning the switch on when he got on the field and turning it off, which is kind of hard to do. When you're in that high pressure environment. But I think out of the years I spent at UAB, Garrett Marino's the most difficult guy to block.
Gotcha. I got another question here for you. I did mention it a little earlier, but it's from William Kennedy at WH Kennedy 23 on Twitter. He did say, "Can you think of anyone in history that had a crazier college football odyssey than yours?"
Yeah, I'd just say Nick Vogel. I mean, if you dug deep into college football history, I'm sure there are plenty of guys that have had much harder roads, personally with their family or just any circumstance surrounding them. But I mean, transferring between colleges and, having the program shut down and brought back and, having to build it back from the ground up, I think that's a pretty unique situation.
Okay. And one more I got from William Winston Reed at Lord Winston on Twitter. What was your most memorable win?
Most memorable win had to have been 2017 La Tech.
Okay, the block, yeah,
The
definitely a great
block,
great
yes.
answer.
That's a lot of people are like, oh, it's a championship win, or it's, Southern Miss in overtime is a good win too. I didn't actually get to play in that one because that was right after I got hurt. But I don't think if there's one sound bite that I want played at my funeral, it's the sound of Legion Field after we blocked the kick against La Tech in 2017. I don't think I've ever heard Legion Field that loud ever.
Coming from a lifelong Blazer, I can tell you I haven't heard it that loud either. It was there's been a few moments where it's come close, but that was definitely probably the loudest in my memory, and
Yeah,
it was definitely a great moment.
that was just. I'm really surprised we didn't get flagged because I think the entire team cleared the bench before the kicker got tackled. But I mean, the Cinderella story of UAB coming back from the dead and that happening at home, that's probably the,
We'll
the
we'll,
most energy I've had at UAB.
we'll let it slide.
Yeah, they're like, oh no, it's fine. It's not a big deal. UAB's been through enough. We'll give them one.
Yeah. So, how can my listeners engage with you now?
I'm on Twitter. I honestly don't know my Twitter handle. I really don't get on social media too terribly much, and if I do, it's just to scroll through it every now and then. I'm on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, but yeah, I don't know. For the most part, I try to stay connected with people on social media, and that's about it. I don't really do too much on Twitter. Or I don't tweet very often. I don't really post too terribly much unless it's my girlfriend or my cat on Instagram. So.
Okay. And a final lighthearted question for you, just to keep you on your toes. You can pick one superpower. What would it be?
Ooh, that's tough, man. I almost would have rather you pulled the typical offensive line question. What's your favorite food?
Mm,
That always seems to be in all the offensive line interviews. If I had to pick one superpower, it'd probably be able to read people's minds.
really? Okay.
Yeah. So that, if you're super strong, you can run into problems. Like you want to drink a Coke, you're going to accidentally crush the can or something stupid. You're going to be Mr. Incredible and break your door off your car. I mean, being able to fly would be cool, but I don't know. I think being able to read people's minds, to be in a certain situation where you need to have something done, or if you're trying to figure out something, I think that it can help you a lot. A lot. Just not taking advantage of someone to say that, but to know what people are going through and to be able to see things from their side. I think especially in today's political climate, however you want to say it, I think being able to understand people and maybe read their mind every now and then would probably come in handy.
That was a great answer. It was nice to hear your reasoning for it.
Yeah,
Most people it is kind of a selfish reason, but that is I like your reasoning behind that. That's a
yeah.
different perspective, but
I think
uh,
one thing I've learned from going through the whole UAB thing and really just playing college football in general is that's one of the if you can learn one thing, it's to see other people's points of view. Coming from a tiny town like Satsuma, you don't see very many different points of view, and I was blessed enough to be able to go to the most diverse university in the southeast in UAB. So just the student body being diverse, plus having guys from California and all over the place to be able to see how people think and how they act and why they do things. I think that's a very valuable lesson you can learn and take with you for the rest of your life. So
awesome. Well, Lee, it was a tremendous pleasure having you on. I know my listeners are going to love hearing your stories and hearing your side of things. It's always nice to have a Blazer give their side, and it's great to have someone as recent as you tell their story. So thank you very much for being on.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, I appreciate it, and thank you for taking it upon yourself to start something like this. I think UAB needs stuff like this. I think it's gonna do great things.
Well, thank you very much. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening. Go get with your cat and your girlfriend, and enjoy the rest of your night. I won't keep you much longer. Thank you very much again.
I appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
All right, I want to thank Lee Dufour for joining me in this episode. It meant a lot to hear him say all the great things that he did about UAB. It made me be a proud alum and a lifelong supporter that we have guys like him come through our athletics program. And thank you for listening. I hope you all have enjoyed these first three episodes, and trust me, I have many more Blazer greats waiting their turn to be on the podcast. It's kind of burning a hole in my pocket not being able to release these names to you guys, but trust me, this can be well worth the wait. I've got some great men and women that have come through our athletics program. From women's basketball to baseball, football. In any sport, you name it. I've got some great athletes coming, so it's going to be well worth the wait, like I said, and I hope you're looking forward to the future, just like me. Some of these athletes span back from the very first Blazer teams, and some of them are recent. So, I hope you're looking forward to the future, and I can't wait to get to those episodes just like you. Before I go, I want to talk about my Friday giveaway on social media this Friday, September 4th. I'll be asking a trivia question to you Blazer fans on my social media pages, and I'll require that you follow my Facebook, Twitter, and now my new Instagram page for the Dragons Den podcast. Share it, tag a few people. If you get the answer right, then you'll be entered into win a chance to win some great prizes. These include a Dragons Den podcast decal that I've made, a UAB 58, UAT 56 bumper sticker. That's UAB 58, UAT 56. All the Blazer fans know that score really well. A bumper sticker, a UAB t shirt. Ryan Keedy, episode 2 guest, he signed some baseballs for me. So got those to give away, and even some Daryl Hackney signed football cards. So some great giveaway items, and be on the lookout for those in the future. I'm doing a lot more giveaways in the future with my featured guests. So keep staying involved with my social media pages. If you want to follow my social media pages, they are at Dragons Den EFEL. Once again, that's at Dragons Den EFEL. And just go on those pages, keep a lookout for my giveaways, and I'll as always stay engaged with my posts. I'm posting like daily memories and just Q&As and stuff from my guests. So be on the lookout for that. Once again, thank you guys for listening. I've thoroughly enjoyed my guests so far, and I hope you have as well. So, with that being said, good night and go Blazers.